I looked on YouTube and I couldn't see any tutorials of what we were doing, so I'm just going to quickly record one for you. So here's the thicker wire we were using earlier, and this one's just going to be twisted onto Leafy's body, so I'm literally just going to twist these two pieces of wire together and leave these two bits loose. It doesn't have to be very precise. And then just to show you how I bend, I usually just anchor it with one thumb and bend it with the other. Random shapes for this job is absolutely fine because we want a bit of organic variation. Luckily we don't have to be precise. If we wanted to be precise we could draw a template, but we don't need it for this, so this will be fine. I'm just going to tighten this up a bit. Okay, so that's our random leafy-ish shape. And then we're going to take the small wire, and the trick that I was doing earlier with this that I didn't get a chance to show you is that I basically get more or less double the length, or sort of a comfortable arm's length of wire. So if you hold it between your thumb and forefinger and stretch your wire out until your other hand is at your shoulder, it's kind of a manageable length of wire, and then you just bend it in half and just pinch the end, so you then end up with this sort of 50cm doubled up length of wire-ish. Doesn't really matter for this, but if it's too difficult for you to work with this length of wire to start with, just start with a shorter piece, that'll be fine. So then what I do is I anchor my detailing wire to basically the stem of the leaf just by twisting that around a couple of times just to anchor it. It helps to keep it steady while you're working. And then what I do is I ignore one strand of wire entirely, put that off to one side, just sort of pull it out of the way, and then I just work with one piece of wire to start with, and I'll wrap it inside. And usually what I'll do is I find the first kink wherever the first bend in your pattern is, and I just loop it around my thumb and anchor it and pull this quite tight so that you're really anchoring that all the way around your outline wire, and then it won't go anywhere. And then from there the wire sort of naturally wants to go somewhere, so you just sort of follow where it wants to go, or if you want to dictate where it goes you can just pinch it and sort of curve it to wherever you want it to go. So a good method to get started is to just do loops all the way up in between, kind of from each little bend. So this one's kind of a oak leafy kind of shape. You can tweak it as you go, it's fine. The wire will loop naturally up to the next gap. Don't know how well you can see this on camera. Can I bring it up to the lens? So it'll just come in between, and then you just literally pinch it in your thumb and forefinger and wrap it around your guide wire a couple of times if you need to anchor it. Then come back underneath and go over to the other side of the leaf, or up to the next I don't know what you call them, leafy bit. Got to the next leafy bit. This wire is really thin, so it might be quite difficult to see on camera, but basically I'm just going to go all the way around using that exact same method. So wrap it around a couple of times to anchor it, and then loop it to the next sort of indent in your pattern. Wrap it around, it doesn't matter which way round you wrap it. You don't want it to slide like this. You want to pull it nice and tight so it doesn't really slip very much. Pinch it if you need to, and then again you just bend your wire around. It's quite easy to tell it where to go. Wrap it around the guide wire and bend it back around again. I'm going to go back to the stalk just because I'm at the end of my wire, and why not? So that's usually how I start. These off, we'll deal with the ends in a minute, and then you've got kind of got this shape, or whatever and it's random. And then all you do with your second wire is you kind of fill in the gaps. So because I've got a big gap in the middle, I'm going to take this piece of wire, I'm going to just go straight through the middle and fill that gap. And it'll cross over in some places, and that's fine. And again, wrap it twice. You don't have to keep your joins in the same place. I tend to, if I need to, just to keep it uncluttered. And then this becomes completely artistic decision making now. So you just randomly wrap it anywhere you want to fill the gaps. You might need to pinch where it's attached. Just wrap it round, pull it nice and tight, and wrap it round again. And you can just tease it into whatever shape takes your fancy. And it literally is just that, repeated over and over and over again until you feel like you've got enough wire that your leaf is going to be seen, and also that your leaf is not going to kind of come out of shape too much once you pack him down. They take a bit of abuse, so you have to. And then I've just managed to pinch that. I've just wrapped that all the way around and pinched it, but if you've got a little spiky bit, you can just get your pliers and squash it. And then because that's a little bit sort of thin on the ground in terms of the detail in wire, I might get another piece of wire and just do the same thing again, keep filling in the gaps. It really doesn't matter how random your pattern is. I've got a second colour of wire here, so I'll just do second colour. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm just going to get a length, and my comfortable working length is basically the length of my arm. And again, bend it in half. Now I'm going to show you a slightly different way to attach a wire, which is unnecessary, but you might find it helpful if you get like a little awkward spot. So I'm just going to show you how to do it. So I've bent my wire into a loop. So I've got my two lengths coming down here. I've got a loop this end, and I'm just going to thread this loop underneath the guide outline wire, and I'm going to basically create myself a loop. I'm going to make sure that the loop goes inside the two lengths of wire, and I'm just going to wrap it around a couple of times. And that's just a slightly different way to anchor your wire in place. And the added bonus is that if you wanted to create a loop, you can leave a loop loose. We don't really need that for this particular purpose. I'm just going to pinch that with pliers. Then again, I've got my two lengths that I can just wrap from that point outwards. You can literally start these from anywhere. You won't notice it at all. I tend to, if I'm trying to keep it open, I will loop it. If it's not that important for structural stability, you can cheat and just pull it tight to the other side, and that's quicker. And it's better if your hands are starting to hurt. You can just sort of cheat and go around the outside, and then just every so often anchor it by doing an extra wrap around your guide wire. I don't know how well you can see it with this bad lighting, sorry. So again, it's just kind of making it up as you go along, really. See a gap, fill it with some wire. And then once your wire gets to a bit too close to the end, just make a little loop and tie it off. Might want your pliers for the little fiddly bit at the end, just to try and make sure we don't have any sharp bits sticking out. Wash that down, and then grab the other side, fill the gaps again, and that's probably enough for a fin this little size, but I just wanted to try and show you what I was doing so you could watch it back if you wanted to. Hopefully you'll be able to see it, what I'm doing. So I tend to work on the top Some people will weave it through in and out, which is sensible, but I find it a bit faffy for my fingers, so I tend to not bother unless I really need to. So you could weave it like under, over, and that does help to tighten the weave, but it's not really necessary for this particular puppet. And if you have any bits that are just a bit loose, you can just literally pinch them so that they're not loose anymore. That's it, you just wrap, twist it around, pull it tight. And then tuck it at the end with the pliers. And that's it, done. You can just keep going and keep going and keep going. You can see here that there's a few where I have not looped it over the guide wire. It can escape a little bit, which isn't really a problem because with this particular design we just grab that piece of wire and put a twist in it, and that will tighten it all up and also make it look wavy. So it gives it a slightly fancier pattern, even though we don't really need it to. But I like the effect that it gives, like a bit of water, sort of like dappling light on the water, and it just breaks it up a little bit. So there you go. That's how you do it.